Hi everybody, it's crazy, it's Monday, and it's time for the UPBGE video of the week. Now before I get started, gotta give a shout out to my trusted, because you guys rock, to my crazy fam, I love you guys, and to my patrons, thank you for your continued support. And we're up to the good old episode number 42, the answer to the life, universe, and everything, if you're a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy fan. But ours isn't the answer, it's actually the question. So we left off last week with, I hope I got it right. Yeah, there we go. We left off with edit object, and I'm going to continue on with that by switching right on over here to that one. And I've already have an edit object actuator set up already. In order to find it, you just go over here, click that, and kind of look down here, you'll see edit object. Yeah. So with that, you get this little screen right here, and we're going to go ahead and read on about it. There are a few actuators that feel as if they could be split into individual ones. The edit object is certainly one of them. With this actuator, you can add more objects into your scene, remove your object out of it, replace its mesh, track its origin to another object, or even alter some of its physics dynamic settings. Let's take a look at them. Okay, so the first one they're going to go to is track 2. Okay, that's this one right here. Okay, you've got the edit object, which is, where's that end? You're going to add object, and then you're going to edit it, I guess. No, it's dynamics. Okay, I'm sorry, my bad. Dynamics, that's this one. Let's see, replace mesh, which is this one. And then you got add object, which is this one, which is basically the default one. Every time you start one of these, that's what you'll get. It usually starts off as an add object. Okay, so let's just start with that one. Add object. If you have objects in one of the non-visible layers, non-visible layers are these guys right here, not the layer that you're currently on. So if you were currently on this one would be an invisible layer. Okay, but since Blender starts up, and actually UPBGE starts up the same way as Blender, okay, it starts on this first one here, and everyone after that is considered to be an invisible layer. Most people usually just put it over here in this spot because of the fact that they can have these to work with. I actually used all of them before, and the last one, most people use it for their trash or extras or stuff that they never will use in the game. It's just there in the blend file. Okay, the let's see, you can, all right, the add object will be at the position and with the orientation of the object controlling the actuator. Okay, I will reread that one because I didn't quite get that. The added object will be at the position and with the orientation of the object controlling the actuator. Now what they're talking about is, if I take this cube, I'm going to move him over to my little invisible layer here. Okay, now he's gone. Okay, now if I hit Shift A and I bring in, say, an empty, just we'll do a cube, okay, to represent it. Okay, now if I take that and put in an edit object actuator, okay, the object is going to be my cube. Okay, so it's going to put it right here, right where that orientation spot is. Okay, the origin point. Okay, the scale, however, will be a combination of both objects. Other than that, the new object is pretty much I still get that wrong. Anonymously actually game property, and logic bricks in the new object will be as good as if the object existed since frame 1. The only exception is the timer game properties that start counting only when the object gets added. You can add multiple instances of the same object, and any of them will behave as an independent duplicated copy of it. Okay, so I'm going to give a direction with that. Okay, so I'm just going to put an always actuator here. Actually, you know what? No, we're going to put a keyboard because you want it to spawn at a certain time. So when we hit the key space, it will do that. We'll trigger it. Okay, and if you're following along with this, you know, you can always slow me down. I've been known to talk fast. Okay, we've already got it set up as the cube. So every time one of these comes in, when we hit play, we hit space, it's gonna put one there. Okay, so if I hit P now and I hit space, there goes my cube. And he's like, but crazy, you have this, you know, thing right here. Well, guess what? Watch this. I'm gonna copy it, move it across the X. I'm gonna hit Shift D again. I'm gonna grab on the Y. Okay, now I've got 3 cubes, right? Guess what? If I hit P and hit space, guess what? Now I got 3 cubes. Okay, you can add objects into your game by just using an empty. That's the whole trick to it. I didn't know about this until way later on, way before I started reading this book, but nonetheless, I started realizing it when I was working on a project with the guys who were doing the Blender Wars, and my buddy Day was, you know, the way he has game 3 set up is that these little guys right here, you know, are what trigger that object into coming in. So I always see these boxes, and I'm like, what are these boxes? Why you got empties everywhere? And he says, because they will spawn you a new one. Just look, it's an edit object, but his is all done in Python. But you can do the same thing in Python as you can do with Logic Bricks. You may need a little bit of Python for more extensive stuff, but mainly with Logic Bricks, you can do just about a lot of things. You can actually build a full game, okay, using just Logic Bricks, okay, because we've done that already. You know, simple. It was a simple game, but it looked pretty good, didn't it? So that's what that does. Edit object, when you hit play, will spawn, you know, whatever's there. That's called the add object, okay? So kind of keep that in mind. Okay, the only exception is the timer game properties that start the counting only when the object gets added. Okay, so if you have a timer property set to it, it will not actuate until that object, this cube, is put in here. So when I hit play, the timer will not start until I hit spacebar. Now that could be kind of good because you may want that to happen in your game. Okay. You can add multiple instances of the same object, and any of them will behave as an independent duplicated copy of it. Okay, so each one of these are independently copied because you're doing the same thing, because all you're doing is duplicating it. Okay, you can add multiple instances of these. Okay, all right, so through the options in the interface, you can change the initial linear and angular velocity of the object and its life duration. Okay, so just to let you know that you can actually change its linear velocity or its angular velocity and the time it takes for it to do it, how many ticks it takes for it to actually appear. Okay, for more control, go with Python, which if you want, you know, say you wanted to do these two to do specific things, but not the same as all of them. Because see, if I put this on Y, okay, and on Z, okay, this one won't. Okay, I can go the other way with that. And on the negative Z, and then we'll take this one and we'll put it on the X and yeah, X, and we'll go with Z positive. Okay, so now if I hit P and I hit P, these should move, but they're not. Okay, I got them on local. Well, either which way, you can actually adjust them. Just a quick note on that. There's probably more you have to do. Okay, so for more control, go with Python. There is so many applications for this feature that it is hard to narrow them down to one example. They run from dynamically populating your game to creating short duration particle effects. You may find yourself looking for more control over added objects, and scripting may address this for you. Through the Python API, you can access the previous added object, get its lifespan, or even completely replace the actuator by its Python equivalent function. Now, I'm going to switch over to that. There we go. That's this right here, okay? That right there is what you would do in Python to create the same thing as this right here. You know, what you put in here will be what is set up here, okay? So scene.addObject is this right here. It's adding an object. You're specifying where to put the object in between these brackets. If you don't know nothing about Python, I suggest really getting like a brush up of it and try to, and try to understand it a little bit, because it will help you further understand logic breaks. You ain't got to be a super coder to be able to run a little bit of Python. You may know somebody who does coding and does programming, and they can write you a script for that if they know how to use the Blender API and the Python API in Blender and a BGE, okay? So that's a good one to think about while you're, when you're making your games. When you're setting these up, you can do that, okay? All right, so let's go to the end object. End object is a fun one, okay? The end object, okay? It just says end object. You really can't do anything with it. There's no added stuff, okay? Take a deep look at your game object. Now, turn away and say bye. Not only will your object be removed from the game, but also any child object parented to it. So if, for example, I wanted to end object, I would actually bring up, where's my, yeah, there it is. Okay, it would actually end this object here. Now, if I had something parented to it, like say, let's add a sphere. Well, let's ecosphere work. Okay. Now, if I do, leave it this way. So if I move this one, nope, wrong way. You gotta do that one first, and then your parent object, and then Control P. Okay, what I just did was parent an object, okay? You select the object that you want to parent to first, and then select the object that is going to be the parent. So you select a child first, and then the parent. I have a hard time remembering that, so try to figure out a way to make it easier for you to remember. That's kind of hard to do. Okay, so now I'm going to delete that off there because we don't need that. Okay, so now that this is parented, and if I hit grab, it's going to do that, right? So guess what? Let's go on over to here, and we're going to click on this. We're going to hit P, and when I hit spacebar, guess what? Do you see what happened? I lost one of them because it went crazy on me. Okay, this little guy right here went nuts because he's probably sitting over here somewhere. But if I hit P again and then hit spacebar, as you see, I still got my parented, two things, and I lost one of the cubes. I don't know why. But let's see here. Let's go X. Oops. X, delete, and let's hit P again and see both of them. Okay, well, apparently that one's just not popping up. Grab Y. Maybe it just needs to be moved over. Well, don't know what happened, but for some odd reason this one doesn't want to do it. Oh, probably because it's not parented to it. It should. Oh, I'm ending objects. That one ended itself. Okay, but the other two, okay, this one is still add object. So that's what my problem was. So if I can go Control Z. Okay, this one got ended when I did it. Okay, so if you hit P, that one will never show up because it ended it. You only wanted these two to show up. Ah, see? So if I put this to sleep, it'd be doing about the same thing as doing it that way. But let's see, P space. Same thing as doing that. If you don't want to add it in there, you want to save resources, you would do that. But you would need the end object. Say, for example, if your player character ran into that cube, you would want that object to end because he ran into it and destroyed it, but yet he got something from it or got hurt from it. It's kind of like how a power-up is. A power-up, you would walk into it and you would get the power-up, information, that information, like, you get 100 bars of life when you hit that cube. And then that cube would disappear because you wouldn't want to sit in there giving them 100 life, would you? For no reason. So you would want that cube to disappear. So that would happen. All right. So next one is, let's go back over here. Oh, actually, it is this one. My bad. Okay, I gotta turn it back on so you can see. All right. So replace mesh is a little bit different. Okay. We're gonna read up a little bit about it. If your object is not an armature, a camera, or an empty, a lamp, or a text, it does have a mesh attached to it. Now, the thing with text is you can actually make it a mesh. So there's some text that you can convert into meshes, but the actual text itself will not. Okay, if you understand what I'm saying, the text will not do it, but if you convert it over to a mesh, then it will actually be a mesh. Okay, and if it has a mesh, it can have it switched into a different one. There are two options here. To replace the graphic mesh, the one you see rendered, or to replace the physical mesh, the one used for physics interactions, viewed with the snow physics visualization. So what it's saying is, I can actually take, let me bring this back. We'll go ahead and delete that. X, delete, so it's no longer apparent. Hit Shift D. We'll put it on the X-axis for a moment. And we're going to move him back over here. Okay, and then I'm going to go back over here. So say we want to replace this mesh. Okay, we're going to put him over here. Push him there. Okay, he has no properties on him or anything. So when we replace this mesh, okay, since we're going to be replacing mesh, all right. Okay, so it won't work with this one, so we have to do it with this one. Okay, so we add, edit object, replace mesh. Okay, this one I want to put back to edit object or add object. It goes back to the cube. Okay, this one is going to replace the mesh. Okay, I'm going to find a new mesh, okay, which is my icosphere. I'm going to put it in its spot. Okay, so what it's going to do when I hit the keyboard R, okay, to replace, say, you want to replace the mesh. All right, and then we hit P. All right, spacebar brings up all of them again, but watch this. R didn't work. All right, that made me look funny, but why didn't it work? So it's been icosphere. Oh, because the icosphere's, no, it's not. I deleted it. I deleted it out of there. So let's see. So here, where's my icosphere? Oh, because I don't have one. So Shift A, mesh. We'll put a new icosphere in, and then we'll go back to front. I'm sorry about that. I forgot. I deleted it and not saved it. So we got to redo it because that icosphere for some odd reason is not showing up. So we're going to use 001. Now, if we hit P, hit the space bar, they all come in. And then if we hit R, guess what? My cube turned into a ball. Okay, so that's the way you actually would do it if you wanted to replace the mesh. A lot of people do that for setting objects. Like you got an object that you're trying to put in a spot. It's like adding an object into a scene. You got the green and the red. Those two switch between. Okay, it's replacing the mesh. It's replacing it from red to green. It's changing the color. And then when you set it down, it takes that mesh out and then puts in the mesh you want. Okay, so that's how that works. All right. All right. Let's see, how far are we along? Woo, we're almost 20 minutes. So we're going to go ahead and leave it off here. But isn't this slow? Really? Not really. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there. Let me switch over to, nope, wrong one again. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to leave it here. That is page 41, just in case you don't remember. And we'll go ahead and put it back on here. That right there will basically end it for this week. I got almost 20 minutes in. I wasn't trying to go that high, but this is a fun topic because I do love playing with the mesh, edit mesh and edit object functions, because they're actually pretty neat. As you see, you can actually replace stuff. So what we're going to do is we'll hold it there for next week. And just remember, it's page 41. It's close towards the bottom, I think. Yeah, no, it's in between. It's like middle of the page. But that's a little bit of how the edit object actuator actually works. So stay tuned in for next week, where I'll finish off with this. We'll do some of the track 2 as well and finish up this particular edit object actuator. Okay, so until next time.